We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 4 o'clock. Thank you for everyone being here. This is the July meeting for the Ttcda. We do have a quorum today, so that's great, fantastic. First up on the list is the approval of the minutes. Hopefully you had the opportunity to look through those, and we have a motion to.
So moved.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, so we're going to make a slight adjustment on the agenda. Do we have a motion to?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I moved a motion to move the last agenda item to the top of the list, please, sir.
All right, that's 6-C-24-TOB.
Correct.
All right, do I have a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so first up on certificates of appropriateness, it is RCIP Horobet. If I butchered that, I apologize. That is 6-C-24-TOB, and that is a postponement for 30 days.
Yes, motion to postpone until August.
All right, is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Postponed. Okay. All right. Next up on the list, Scott Davis, Masana Investments, LLC. It's 4-A-24-TOR. All right. Can we get a staff report, please?
This is a rezoning request from agricultural to planned residential up to 5 dwelling units an acre. This rezoning is on 6.71 acres on the west side of George White Road, north of Rather Road. The future land use map has this place type as suburban residential, and the planned residential district with a density no greater than 12 dwelling units an acre can be considered as partially related in this place type. This property has some steep slopes through the rear of the property, and the hillside protection area includes 5.7 acres on this 6.7 acre site. The recommended land disturbance within the hillside and ridgetop protection plan is 3.55 acres. So George White Road is an unstriped 16-foot local road. It's not suitable for a high number of dwellings. George White Road has implemented the ride-in, ride-out safety measure on Pellissippi Parkway to improve safety, and more road improvements would be needed in order to accommodate higher density. This property abuts single-family subdivisions along George White Road. Residential development at the recommended density is consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan to ensure development is sensitive to existing community character. Houses, duplexes, multi-dwelling structures, and developments are permitted in the PR zone, along with some non-residential uses. At the requested density of 5 dwelling units an acre, this property could accommodate up to 33 dwellings. At the recommended density of 3 dwelling units an acre, a maximum of 20 units can be built, which is more in line with the subdivisions in the area. The TO overlay, all developments other than single-family residences and duplexes would require a design guideline development review. The recommendation is to approve the planned residential zone with up to 3 dwelling units an acre because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development. The TO overlay would be retained.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, is there anybody here for or against? For?
For.
Give us your name and your address.
Yeah, Scott Davis, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville 37939.
Okay. Any comments or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, we, as you can see on the map there, the most recent subdivision developed on George Light Road was done by Wallace McClure just recently, and that's approved at 5 units an acre. We're less than 0.2 of a mile from that. It backs up to Pellissippi Parkway. It's in the planned growth. It's in the suburban residential zone. And I think 5 units an acre is appropriate for that, considering where it's located, backing up to Pellissippi, and we have 5 units an acre almost directly across the street. So I respectfully request approval at 5 units an acre.
All right, any questions or comments?
I have some questions or comments. Hello, Mr. Davis, how are you?
Hello.
Have you spoken to Knox County Engineering about George Light and the improvements that they plan to require of you as part of this project?
No.
Okay, so that's something that I did talk to them about. And based on the 2019 Hardin Valley Mobility Study, as you just mentioned, George Light Road, it is a 16-foot unstriped road, and it's currently not suitable for a high number of dwellings. And it's implemented the right in, right out safety measure project, which is S-14 to improve the safety. So Knox County Engineering has stated they would like to require of the applicant that you improve the road, widen George Light Road to 20 feet, including final asphalt surfacing and striping along the entirety of the development's property frontage and south to Beaver Glade Lane prior to recording the plat. So the TO technology overlay would be retained. So that is something that I am willing to make as a condition of the motion. If we want to discuss density, I think that that's something that we could absolutely discuss as well.
And I appreciate your comments. Usually, as y'all know, density dictates what you can do improvement-wise. And so if we were able to get 5 units an acre, there's a greater likelihood we would be able to make those improvements. It would be to the benefit of all the residents there. So if it's feasible to do so, we would agree to make those improvements per Knox County Engineering with the 5 units an acre.
Other questions, comments?
So I would just like to point out that recently the county did this comprehensive growth plan that was multiple years and millions of dollars. And this property is in suburban residential in that growth plan. And suburban residential allows up to 12 units an acre. So I guess I have a question for staff at how did you arrive at 3 when they just went through this plan?
It's only partially related.
So the PR zone is considered partially related.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a matrix that's directly related and partially related and then non-appropriate. And that would require the land use amendment. So in this case, it's PR basically from 1 to 12 dwelling units an acre. And so we're looking more at what infrastructure is there and what also is in the community. And, there's nothing greater than 5 dwelling units an acre in the area. The road is not quite up to the standard for higher density.
Just wanting to piggyback on that real quick. So the comprehensive plan does have additional criteria when properties are partially related or when the zones are partially related versus when they're directly. And that's when the requirement for looking at the infrastructure and things like that get triggered. So we have to look at that a little bit more closely now under the comprehensive plan than what you may be used to under the general plan.
Okay. So the other point I'd like to make here is the applicant has requested plain residential zoning. That would require this to go back before Planning Commission with the plan, correct?
Yes.
And Knox County Engineering they provide guidance during that?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, other questions or comments?
Did staff take into consideration some of the hillside protection things? I'm sort of reading about them in here, but did that also have a bearing on why you settled on 3 instead of 5?
Yes, I would say that's definitely a consideration. It's not, completely flat piece of property, but yeah, I think definitely. So Previously, under the old plan, we considered density with that. It's not the hillside protection plan. We don't really look at density in the rezoning anymore. But there is consideration of, is this property still appropriate to develop at as intense of a level?
Yeah, and just as a point of clarification, so under the general plan, we had the low-density residential, medium-density residential, and high-density residential. And those had very specific, very contained densities, 5 dwelling units per acre, 2 in the rural area, 12 for medium-density residential. And those were the numbers that we input into the slope analysis, which would give us that density. And now, because there's such a broader range of densities that are allowed under the different zones, it really skews the results when you start entering all that in, because it wasn't really designed to work with this kind of framework. So it's just under a different plan. So that's when we decided to kind of pull back on looking at the slope analysis as a point of density and started looking at just the disturbance area, because it's really all about, at the end of the day, the footprint of the properties. And you can, build up a little bit higher than maybe if you're doing multifamily, for example, than having a broader footprint expanding out. So that's kind of one of the things we took into consideration, was we were more concerned with the disturbance and the footprints more so than the density.
Question?
So I know Mr. Moyers isn't here. I have concern over someone making a motion to approve the zoning with a stipulation on widening the road. That sounds like conditional zoning to me.
It's legal.
Yeah, so conditional zoning is when you provide a condition about the use. So it's when you say, maybe you can do residential, but not this type of residential, or something else that's specific to restricting uses. But you can make restrictions on improvements or things like that. That is legal and allowed within the county, per Mike Moyers.
Okay.
Other questions, comments?
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Davis. With a density of 5, given the topography, do you have any idea how you would cluster those homes? Do you have, is that possible on this piece of property?
Yes, the north, which would be the north edge of that property, if you walk it, lays very, very, very well. And so we would more than likely cluster everything on that north side, because it's fairly flat all the way back to Pellissippi.
Because for me, this area is where I would actually like to see higher density with Pellissippi, given that the road is improved. So I would be willing to entertain 5 per unit, as long as the condition is accepted into the motion.
Yeah, again, it's financial. I mean, if we're able to give 5 units an acre, we're much more capable and able to be able to make improvements to the road. If that became cost prohibitive, we would probably come back to you guys and say, is this something consideration? Or we would come back and say, okay, with this many units per acre, what level would we not have to make the road improvements? And that would be between you all and Knox County Engineering.
I'd be willing to make a motion.
So before we do that, though,
Okay.
I'd like to get a better understanding of the actual road that we're talking about requesting the improvements on. Are we talking about a certain distance, the entire road?
No, it would just be widening George Light Road to 20 feet, including the final asphalt surface striping, along the entirety of the development's property footage and south to Beaver Glade Lane.
Okay, so everything from Plan North to the south to Plan South?
From Plan North to Beaver Ridge Lane.
To the lane.
Southern,
Okay.
So
The reason I'm asking the question is, Mr. Davis, I'm not sure if you actually looked and understand what what's being agreed to as it relates to cost and everything else related to those improvements that are potentially going to be tagged to your request.
Yes, sir. We would do a financial analysis, determine whether it's feasible or not. I would get with Jim Stoden with the county engineering and come back and here's what we can do. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we come back to you guys.
So can we, I think maybe it would be best just to make the motion that the developer works with Knox County Engineering, because I doubt any of the engineers have actually done any work on this and looked at it.
No, we don't know how much right of way is there. We don't know. And generally, Knox County Engineering will request up to 18 feet for a county road.
Yeah. Well, and now I think things are a little bit different. County engineering now, to my understanding, they actually have there's an ordinance that regulates these kind of agreements. Is that correct?
Yes, we can now execute these types of agreements. And this body can make these requirements as a condition. And it's something that I feel pretty strongly about.
And it's a recommendation to the planning commission, who then has the authority to that. And then it goes to county commission.
All right, other discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve planned residential zoning up to 5 dwelling units an acre, so long as the developer meets with Knox County Engineering and comes up to an agreeable solution for George Light Road. Or is this George Light? Yeah, George Light Road.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation of PR zone with up to 5 units because it's consistent with the Knox County Comprehensive Plan and surrounding development, subject to one condition, that the applicant will widen George Light Road to 20 feet, including final asphalt surface and striping along the entirety of the development's property's frontage and south to Beaver Glade Lane prior to recording the plat. The TO technology overlay will be retained.
And just one question, Commissioner Frazier.
Oh, hold on 1 second, please. We've got a motion on the
No, I'm
floor.
sorry. My apologies.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
All right. Thanks for all time and service. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. All right, next up, Keith Pankey, Signco Incorporated, 7-A-24-TOS. Can we get a staff report, please?
This is a request for approval of 3 new building signs to a church at 2116 Valley Vista Road, located at the east of Valley Vista Road, north of Carmichael Road, south of Hardin Valley, abutting Palisippi Parkway. The property is zoned planned commercial with conditions and technology overlay. The conditions tied to the rezoning were all met by the site plans and are not relevant to the signage request. For context, this is what the development looks like around the property. The property has 2 frontages, as you can see. It abuts Palisippi Parkway on the rear, and the front of the property faces Valley Vista Road. Because it has 2 frontages, it allowed a total of 200 square feet of signage. Building sign number 1 will be placed on the rear of the building facade facing Palisippi Parkway. Sign number 2 will be mounted on the front of the building facade facing the church's parking lot parallel to Valley Vista Road. And the third sign will be mounted on the building facade on the west side. All signs will be composed of aluminum backs with plastic faces with a matte black finish and illuminated with LED lighting. The colors for all 3 signs are black, white, and gold. Building sign number 1 shows the church name, Emmanuel Church, and a medallion for the church logo. Total signage is 79.17 square feet, with the logo being 20.25 square feet and the lettering 58.92 square feet. The second building sign is 30.25 square feet medallion with the church logo. And the third building sign is also 30.25 square feet medallion with the church logo. The total signage of all 3 logos and the lettering is 139.67 square feet, which is within the allowable 200 square feet for 2 building frontages. Based on the application and plans as submitted, staff recommends approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the requested sign permit with the following condition: that meeting all relevant requirements of the Knox County zoning ordinance as appropriate.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? All right, is there anybody here for? All right.
Keith Pankey, 419 Westbridge Drive, 37919.
All right, anything to add, Mr. Pankey?
No, it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up on the list, Shannon Sapp, Merritt Construction Incorporated, 7-B-24-TOS. If we can get a staff report, please.
This is a request for approval of a new sign at 10542 Murdoch Drive. It is located east of Simmon Roads and on the south side of Murdoch Drive. For context, this is what the development around the property looks like. The property is zoned planned commercial in the technology overlay zone. The proposed sign consists of the company name, Harper Collision, and will be composed of aluminum letters with plastic faces and a matte black finish. The sign is roughly 66.45 square feet, which is within the allowable square footage of 100 square feet. During the day, the signage will show as black, and at night, the sign will be illuminated with blue LED lighting. Based on the application and plans as submitted, staff recommends approval of a certificate of appropriateness for the requested sign permit with the following condition, meeting all relevant requirements of the Knox County zoning ordinance as appropriate.
Okay. Any questions for staff? All right. Shannon, name, address?
Shannon Sapp, Merritt Construction, 10435 Dutchtown Road, 37932.
All right. Anything to add?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
All right. I'll entertain a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you. Y'all have a good afternoon.
All right, next up on the list is OKRGP, which is 5-B, or 8. Is that a B or an 8? It's B. 5-B-24-TOB. Let me get a staff report, please.
This is a proposal for a new retail building at Hardin Valley Road in Award-Winning Way on 3.55 acre lot. The proposed building is 18,125 square feet and 24 and a half feet tall. The PC zone, it's not the intent of this zone to restrict potential development by limiting uses. And generally, uses permitted shall include office, commercial, and light distribution centers. This retail building is consistent with the intent of the PC zone. There are 3 proposed driveways. The Hardin Valley Road driveway will have an eastbound right turn lane and restrict left-out movements. There are 2 existing driveways on Spring Bluff Way, and those will remain. The parking in the rear of this site is currently shared with the existing retail development to the south, and the easternmost entrance will be shared with Chick-fil-A, which is to the east. Hardin Valley Road and Award-Winning Way have existing sidewalks along their frontage per the Knox County Sidewalk Ordinance. A sidewalk will be required along the frontage of Spring Bluff Way. The parking lot has 187 parking spaces. This meets the minimum requirement of 126, but is 18 spaces over the maximum. But parking above the maximum is allowed if the parking surface is pervious or structured. So in this case, 50 spaces will be pervious. The retail building will be 1 story, and it's approximately 24 and a half feet tall with storefront windows facing Hardin Valley Road. The roof is made of aluminum coping. The west entrance is fiber cement panel with a wood look and smooth face. The east entrance, where the drive-through will be located, is a steel wall panel with smooth face and light gray in color. And the center entrance will be a fiber cement panel, smooth face, and graphite color. And the material between these main massings will be brick. The building will consist of 40% brick veneer, which is compatible with the other brick buildings in the platted area, the villages at Hardin Valley. Landscape plan has been provided that provides screening along Hardin Valley Road and meets all other landscape design guidelines. Additionally, the lighting plan meets all guidelines for lighting intensity. For example, the lighting levels are 0-foot candles at the property lines. A blank monument sign has been proposed. It's 83.97 square feet, which is within the maximum size of 100 square feet based on the building frontage. Any future signage will have to come back through this board. And staff is recommending approval for the COA subject to 6 conditions, implementing recommendations of the Transportation Impact Study, and providing a sidewalk along Spring Bluff Road, and providing a detailed landscape plan during permitting for review and approval by staff, and meeting all applicable requirements of engineering and public works and the Knox County zoning ordinance, as well as obtaining planning commission approval for development plans.
All right. Questions for staff?
I have a question for the applicant.
All right. Is the applicant here? Familiar face.
Ben Bethel, 2110 Holderwood Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question about the car queuing with Chick-fil-A going in on the other end, and then I'm assuming this will have a drive-through option on the west-facing side. Do you have any idea of how many cars can queue there or stack staying off of Spring Bluff Way or Award-Winning Way?
I do not know the number. The area shown is with a paver, and it is landscaped extensively behind the building. But I don't know the number of cars in that queue.
That's something I would strongly encourage this body to consider, considering the amount of vehicular traffic through this area, especially with the addition of Chick-fil-A as a bookend on the other side. I know as a commissioner, public works, engineering, we're getting hammered about this stretch of road. We are going to add an additional lane that will help some. But the stacking of vehicles, keeping them off of Award-Winning Way and Spring Bluff, I would like to see some sort of plan for that before I can make a decision on this.
That's stacking behind the building, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. Do you see the? Oh, yeah, I don't know.
We have a measurement on it.
That's what I was looking
On
to
the
see if there
plans?
was a.
And if possible, I'd like to see what did we require of Chick-fil-A, because they worked hand in hand with our engineering department to keep those vehicles queued off of the other corridors. And so I would hope that it would be comparable in some way, because we cannot stack up traffic there.
I'm not sure what is going in here. I think the traffic study suggested coffee, so potentially Starbucks or I guess Dunkin'. But I did not discuss with county engineering how many cars could be stacked or what they were looking for specifically for this drive-through.
Yeah, roughly. That's why if we had a measurement, we could hypothesize what the distance would be. So we don't have on any of the
That's what I'm looking at.
for the building, if we got a dimension on the building. I guess one of the questions I would have, and Knox County Engineering is not here, but going through Knox County Engineering, what are their guidelines for queuing? I mean, what is their standard?
I'm pretty sure they look at that 20 feet per vehicle.
Well, but not even that. I'm just wondering what, for what is the standard for a restaurant with a drive-through? What is what are they meeting?
By use.
Yeah, by use. If it's a coffee shop, is it 20, or 15 or 10 or?
The building's 265 feet long. So the building's 265 foot in length.
So you're talking about somewhere between 13 and 16 cars probably in queuing. Hypothesization. Is that a word? Yes, high level math. So, all right. Any other discussion? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation.
Do we have a second? All right, have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think that's it unless we have other business. We don't? All right. Everyone, thank you for your time today, and we are adjourned.